random word generator. Abolish.
Interesting. No context, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, let's give it a shot. Abolish. This week, we are wrapping up. Abolish. This week, we're wrapping up Joaquin Phoenix month with the highly anticipated Napoleon. Ridley Scott's new film, as he teams up with Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby, among others, to tell the story of the great Napoleon Bonaparte, the French general, king, emperor, and the man whom the complex is named after. This film is a lot of things: a period piece, character study, action film in some ways. We have a lot to discuss, and we'll see if it lives up to the hype.
Well, Hunter, I am excited to abolish any doubt on whether this film lives up to the hype. But I need to ask you a question. But is Napoleon good?
Let's find out.
But is it good podcast? Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
I said that, and I opened my arms like I was welcoming people, but it's just me in a fucking bedroom by myself.
Not by yourself. You
I have
two
my dogs. I have my dogs, and I have my son on a monitor. He's crying. He's pulling out my heartstrings today. Anyway, I'm your host, Hunter Callahan.
I'm your host, Zach Olson.
And today, we are wrapping up Joaquin Phoenix month. It's been a good month.
Has been a good month.
It's been a good month. And I'm excited for December, too. We're going to announce that schedule this week. December looks like it's loaded.
Yeah, December's Danny DeVito month, which I'm really excited for.
Hey, I met him. Well, I didn't meet him. Did I tell you this story?
Hold on.
I didn't tell you this story, did I?
No. You met Danny DeVito?
Technically, no. I guess it doesn't count. But I was like a foot from him. I saw him. It was in New York. We were walking down the street, and he's in a Broadway play right now.
Okay.
He's like the star's like his play. He wrote it and stuff. And we were just walking past the back door of this theater. And we saw a line. And I was like, oh, I bet Danny DeVito's going to come out and see people. It was 11. And then sure enough, right as we were walking by, the door opened and he came plopping out. Dude is tiny.
Yeah.
He's small. He's smaller than you think he is.
I mean, he looks pretty small.
He's tiny.
Would you say he's itty?
He is itty bitty. He's not just itty
bitty.
He is also bitty. He is itty and bitty.
Okay.
But he. So I didn't talk to him, but I was like, oh look, it's Danny DeVito, and he was within 5 feet. So I could have stayed and met him, but I was like, I didn't see your play, so it's fine. I'll go.
Slightly less cool than if you had said hey Danny, I'm a big fan of your work. And then he said oh, what work? And you had to come up with something.
I would have been
what
Penguin,
would you say?
Dude. Penguin.
Right now.
Penguin. Come on, man. He's Penguin.
Yeah.
Come
There
on.
you go.
Also, I would have said you're a great stripper from Friends. It's a good scene.
Yeah.
It's a good episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll announce that schedule here this week. Zach, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving, and I hope that you're feeling better.
I'm feeling better. I didn't do anything. I didn't go home. I didn't. Yeah. I stayed home and drank hot tea for Thanksgiving. So that kind of sucked.
Well, when you say it like that, it kind of sounds quaint.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, sometimes that's my weekend, stay in, drink hot tea, read a book.
Dude, you need to calm down, dude. That's wild.
I know.
Well, good deal. I'm glad you're feeling better.
It's calmer than it used to be. I used to have this ritual when I was at West Georgia in grad school. Every Wednesday night, I don't know why I chose Wednesday, but every Wednesday night, I would buy a bottle of wine and drink the whole thing.
Damn.
did it for a while.
It sounds
Like
kind of
not like a big bottle, like a smaller bottle of
a
wine.
personal bottle. That sounds kind of nice though, dude. Wine drunk is the best. I love wine. Well, I love I love sweet wines. Well,
Yeah.
good. Well, I'm glad you feel better. You seem like you are feeling a bit better, even though you have that cough lingering.
Apologies if y'all hear me coughing, because it's gonna hang around for a little while, I think.
Yeah. Well, cool. I'm excited to talk about this. Are you ready to jump in?
I am. So, Hunter, this is your episode. Why don't you lead us?
It is my episode. Okay, Zach. When did you see this today?
Yeah.
Well, as I usually do, I'm going to make you go first because you have seen it the day of recording. So I'd love to know your thoughts on Napoleon.
It was okay. So first thought was, and it should have been obvious. It shouldn't have been a question, but it was a question. But my first thought was, "There's no way this is historically accurate, is there?" Answer: no, it's not fully historically accurate. I mean, for the most part, it is. But so that was a thought. I want to talk about the pacing real quick because.
Well, keep it brief because I want to talk about that too.
Yeah. It moved like a history textbook. It was just from like one event to the next event to the next event, or it felt that way at times to me. It didn't seem like it flowed well. So I don't know. I thought Joaquin did a great job. I thought the performances were great. Right. I'm not sold on this film. I'll say that. Yeah, those are my first impressions. That's me keeping it brief. I could have gone on.
Yeah, and we shall. This one I think will actually might be kind of tough to go chronologically because there's so much. But because I've kind of the same things that I kind of feel as you. I liked it.
Okay.
And I was a little disappointed with how I felt about it, if I'm honest.
Okay.
Like, I think it was masterfully made from a filmmaking standpoint. I think the action was really great. I thought the set pieces were really cool. It's definitely on an epic scale.
Yeah.
And I thought the performances as a whole were good. I just feel like sometimes I feel like the movie didn't really know what it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it was confusing, right?
Well,
Like at times.
not just that, but like tonally, there were some times where I laughed, where I was like, but
That's what I'm talking about.
yeah,
Sorry, this is your moment.
Yeah, there's times where like I laughed where I was like, that was a joke, like that was supposed to be funny, but it still felt strange. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then my biggest qualm, if you will, if I can break out some vocabulary there, is that the editing
It's a big word.
in some, maybe the first half just felt really chaotic to me. And I guess that would be the pacing for, as well. Just was like, I was trying to keep up. So I was a little disappointed. I will say this before we dive into spoilers. This is the weakest film of Joaquin month.
I think so too.
Which that's a little disappointing, but that's kind of how I stand right now.
Yeah. That's how I feel as well. The theater I was in was like the audience was didn't know how to react to certain things, like things that were almost certainly jokes didn't get laughed at, got like a or something like that, and then things that like weren't funny got laughed at, and it just seemed like the audience didn't know. Yeah, you're right. The tone, tone was kind of wonky.
I will say that I did not have the best movie going experience.
Where'd you go?
I went to NCG, but believe it or not, it's nothing to do with NCG. NCG was fine. I went with like my in-laws. It was like 10 of us, which I've learned I don't like seeing movies in groups anymore. I like seeing it with like by myself or with like a person, maybe two.
Yeah.
So there's just like a
And
lot.
that person or maybe two need to be there to watch the film.
Yes. So that it was a little odd, but the strangest thing is that we were in the VIP seats, you know, that row. Dude, somebody was throwing popcorn.
Are you
Like,
serious?
I'm serious. And the strangest thing is that when I walked in, I noticed that the crowd was much, much older. So I was like, who the hell is doing this?
Some old man is just like, this sucks. We'll throw some popcorn.
It's not that. It would like, we were getting hit with like kernels. And they would like, just be like, bloop. And you feel it like bounce.
Wild.
And I was like, first it was like, Hannah was like, someone's throwing popcorn. And I was like, really? I didn't feel anything. Then I got hit a couple of times. We didn't like hurt, but I was just like, what's happening? It was really weird.
It's wild. What if it was someone that y'all knew?
Well, no one said anything after. Like,
okay, that's fair.
and I was like, I I wonder, now that I think about it, I wonder if, because you know how the VIPs have like there's like a, what's like a little mini wall behind the seats, you know?
Yeah.
I couldn't think of the word. I wonder if they thought that would just like,
there were no seats?
Yeah, and they were just throwing popcorn kernels down. But
That's
damn,
hilarious.
I mean, like we were getting popcorn.
That's hilarious.
It would have been funny. It would have been funny if somebody threw
What if
popcorn.
Jared went like 2 rows back and was just like,
No, because I could see Jared. He was like right.
Okay.
He was right next to Hannah.
Did you have that thought?
What if somebody? It would have been funny if somebody was like, if somebody hit me with popcorn and I heard, "Your podcast sucks." I would have been like, "Okay." I would have said, "Thanks for listening."
Yeah, thank you for your support.
Anyway, okay, time for me to do blah blah blah. Movie in a minute. Movie in a minute. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's time for a movie in a minute. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Gonna talk about a movie in a minute. Just 6 seconds. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Let's go. All right. I don't really want to do this. I'm dreading this. Actually, here we go. All right. I'm ready.
This is like Mr. Gerald's class all over again. Not that specific incident, but just like you're spitting facts.
Napoleon tried to catch to cross the Maginot Line. That actually was like World War II, wasn't it?
The Maginot Line.
Yeah.
Fucked up thing is I couldn't tell you. It's Maginot, right?
Maginot Line. Nazi Germany, yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was the worst moment of my life. Should I explain it for context?
You can, but let me just say that if that's the worst moment of your life, you've had a pretty good life.
I have had a pretty good life, thank you. The Maginot Line incident was when we were. What year was that? Was that sophomore year?
He was a sophomore teacher, yeah.
So we were, what, 15?
Yep.
I have a stutter, believe it or not. And I have moments where I get caught on words. And we had this wonderful teacher, Mr. Gerald. He's a great teacher. Loved his class, history teacher. And he would call on people to call answers. And the question was, what was the line of defenses in France during World War II, whatever, called? And the answer is, of course, the Maginot Line. Maginot line, Maginot. And he said, Mr. Callahan. Now, me and Trey were in the same class, so we had to wait and see which one he called on. He said, Mr. Callahan, as a way of like, who is it? Is it Hunter or Trey? And he said, what's the line called? Whatever. Hunter. I said, the Maginot Line. Brutal. Fucking brutal. Sorry. I'm done. And people laughed. It was
can
really
you feel
embarrassing.
it coming? Can you feel like a stutter coming? Do you ever feel it? Have you ever felt it while you were singing and you're like, oh no?
So singing, I don't really ever stutter when, like, it's just, I kind of can bypass it.
Probably uses a different part of your brain to sing than to talk.
There was one
Because like
time
Ozzy Osbourne can sing perfectly fine, and he's like
he can't speak.
intelligible when he talks.
There was one time where I was like, gosh, I might have been in middle school. No, I think I was freshman, or I was in a play. I was in Rent. It was like it was like a medley,
Hell yeah.
and I had to sing a line. And there was one song where I like would sometimes get stuck, but come showtime, I got it out, so it was fine.
That's good.
Anyway, should I do a movie in a minute now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we gotta do the song again.
Movie in a minute. Yeah, movie in a minute. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the movie in 60 seconds. All right, here we go. All right, I got a timer. Zach, you ready?
Yeah. Yes.
Are you ready? I need to make sure you're ready before I do this.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. And this is Napoleon, the movie, not his actual life, because it's historically inaccurate. In 1 minute. And 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, 1793. It's the French Revolution. We see Marie Antoinette get her head cut off. Napoleon's there, and he's like, "I'm going to take over." Anyway, years later, he leads a battle that kind of helps save France, and he kind of climbs up the ranks in his military career, and he's like this military genius, but he's also kind of like an egotist. Anyway, he meets this woman, falls in love, they're married, and we just kind of see him, grow in power, and then he becomes king, which actually is called the emperor. He's the emperor of France, and he gets a little power hungry, and then he goes off. He goes to conquer Russia, and like 600,000 people die, so he gets exiled. Then he comes back and says, "I'm going to stay in France and take it over again." So he goes to war with like the rest of Europe, and then he loses that battle, so he gets exiled again. And then, he also divorces his wife, who he still loves, though. And then he has like a kid out of wedlock, and then all the stuff. And then he dies on an island.
I mean, that was his life.
That was his life.
Start to finish.
That was his life. I realized as I was doing it that it's just like a lot of the same stuff over again. So I didn't know how to. Like he wins a battle, and he wins a battle.
You could have talked about. I mean, no, you did perfect. You did perfect.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I couldn't have said anything else. I described the entire film. So, I forgot to say spoilers, but it's just his life. So I kind of whatever.
I feel like we're good.
Yeah. So now spoilers, if you want. I didn't really. I just kind of outlined his life. Here's spoilers. Okay, Zach. Let's talk about this movie, shall we?
Okay. Yeah.
So what was your issue with the pacing? Let's just jump right into that, because I feel like that's going to be the biggest thing that we kind of talk about.
Well, I mean, I said it really succinctly, and I don't know what else to say. It felt like it was moving from just like one historical event to the next. Like it didn't feel like there was this. For the majority of the film, it didn't feel like there was this narrative arc. It just felt like it was moving from like it was trying to hit all of the points. Like he fought in this battle and this got him a promotion, and then he fought in this battle and then he was, crowned emperor, and then he got a divorce because his wife was infertile. You know what I mean? It just felt like it was like going from point to point. At times, not the whole movie, but it just, I don't know.
Well, it seemed like to me, it seemed like it cared a lot more about, which I think this is true, and maybe they should have just made the movie about this. It seemed like it cared a lot more about the relationship between him and Josaphine, which I think it's because it did.
It did. You're right. That was the narrative arc, right?
Yeah.
And then everything else was just hitting the points on the timeline. Continue.
Yeah. No, well, I was just going to say, because that's exactly what I was going to say, is that it seemed like it rushed through everything until they got together. And then it was like, okay, now let's tell a story. And it was like, hold on a minute. That was a bunch of chaos. It just seemed super unorganized.
It did.
Maybe not even.
Like
Well, yeah, I guess that would make sense.
I get what they were trying to do with the like he's in Russia and you're like he's narrating the letters that he's writing to Josephine, but it just felt like it wasn't fully executed or something. You know what I mean? Like it felt like it was like almost there but not there for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it's like I don't know. I think what it was like the first handful of battles that we saw were it was just like
Brutal.
like well, it was brutal, very brutal. Dude, when the horse got shot, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was just like, okay, we're watching a period piece war movie. And then it completely shifts tones to like, okay, we're watching a period piece romance that might also be a romantic comedy.
Yeah, but yeah, it had like romantic comedy, and then at times like I wasn't sure if it was a romance because I think Vanessa Kirby is great, but sometimes I wasn't sure what emotion she was showing. Like, okay, so when they were getting their divorce, let's talk about that scene. I was convinced she was up there laughing. I didn't think she was like on the verge of tears. It looked like she was like laughing.
Well, I think she was laughing, but I took it as like a laugh of like what's the word where she's just like so
She's
I
in
guess
hysterics.
Maybe not hysterics, but like I don't want to say like sarcasm. That's not the right word, but like almost like a okay, whatever. Like sure, like just so kind of over it. But then I think what was weird about what made that scene weird to me it was like sandwiched by like really kind of sweet scenes. It seemed like because like after that they're hanging out on the couch and he's like, "I'll always love you. I'm gonna miss you." And
yeah,
he's like, "Write to me
before
tomorrow."
that, we got two scenes where, and this is something that Joaquin is great. He can do anything, and I'll like it, except I don't need to see him railing someone from behind multiple times in the same movie. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Well, it was weird because
really going to town too. Like,
yeah, those
not wasting any time.
What's funny about those the sex scenes was like maybe it was intended to show like the selfishness disconnect and like an inherent like selfishness to him because that's the whole Napoleon complex, right? And the ego of him, which I think what was strange to me is I saw that come through towards the end. That's the thing is like the first half of the movie, like the first third is like a History Channel telling of his military rise to power.
Yes.
And then the middle third is like his relationship with Josaphine.
But here's the thing, Hunter, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but...
Well, no, hold on. Hold that thought. I'll finish this one sentence, then you can go.
Okay.
And then the final third is like a study of his egotism and complex and his downfall.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like there's a through line to all of it. At least not the way... there probably is, but at least not the way that it's put together. It doesn't seem. But continue. What were you going to say?
The romance... There were entire scenes where I was convinced that Josaphine wasn't into it, and like I said, it's like the emotion wasn't coming through Vanessa Kirby's face or something. Because like the intimate scenes, she's just fucking standing there.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that when they first got married, I was under the impression that it was. She was doing it for like security or for not social status, but like she was like the only way for me to survive in prison was to get pregnant. I have all these transgressions, and I think there's even a scene where like it seemed like maybe she's talking to her like housemate about marrying him, and she says like, "Well, do you find him without appeal?" And she's like, "No."
And then the
That's
housemaid's like, wasn't that enough?
that's not a way. That's not the same as saying I'm in love with somebody. Like,
Right, right.
do you think he's ugly? No,
What
is
about the
not is
scene
not the same
where
thing as I'm in love with him.
she's getting ready for dinner or like a party or something? And he walks in, he's just like, yum, yum, yum.
See, like,
You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck was that?
I forgot to move that.
It's okay.
Yeah, see, that's where I was like, that's funny, but like, what? Who is this guy?
Nobody laughed in my theater. Everyone was just like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I don't know. It was strange because like I'm not sure. It's hard for me to piece these things together. You know what I mean? And like have them fit. And I think they're all kind of individually interesting. But when you put it all together, it's just like, huh.
It's a mishmash.
You know what I mean?
Excuse me.
You're fine.
Do you want to talk about some historical inaccuracies?
Well, I was going to say, I'm actually looking at some right now, and apparently it's wildly historically inaccurate. Which, one last thing on this, that was never my concern because even during it, I was like, one, there's no way that it happened like this, but two, it's like, it had no concern with like trying to make you keep up. Because also one complaint that I have for this, it seemed like everybody else, they had an appearance signifier of the time frame, but Napoleon looked the same the entire fucking movie.
Yeah.
And so I was like, give me something, which is fine, but like it was hard to be like, when is this?
Did you think it odd that while some people had like a I don't know, like a accent, Joaquin Phoenix was just Joaquin Phoenix, like just Joaquin Phoenix voice?
I will tell you that it was a surprising choice to me. It didn't necessarily affect my opinion of the movie.
Okay.
Because
that's fair.
After a few minutes, I was kind of just like,
after the first scene, I was over it. But the first scene, I was like,
I will say, I was like, oh, okay, he's just Joaquin Phoenix in this. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of things like, there's one professor from Princeton called it a travesty. It doesn't have a list of what he said, but he said pointed out many historical inaccuracies. Here's some things. Let's see. He said there's a professor from Oxford who's like he worked on the film. He pointed out several aspects where the production deviated from history. It said like their divorce happened in 1809, 2 years after he met Alexander, which is shown to occur before. This is all about the divorce, saying that like he didn't slap her, all that kind of stuff. Do you have like a list or anything?
I looked at a list earlier. I know that he almost certainly wasn't there to witness the beheading.
Yeah, you have Marie Antoinette.
Yeah. I know that Napoleon was not known to charge into battle like he does numerous times in the movie. He just sort of stayed back. But what is interesting is in the the siege of Toulon, which is the first battle where his horse gets blown up. He comes out of that battle unscathed, but in like history books or like historical texts say that he was like mortally injured by a bayonet in that battle. So it's interesting that they didn't show him actually getting injured in that battle.
Mortally, but he lived.
Well, okay, he was like on the verge of death. Fuck off. Okay, you can be
severely injured. It says like he never met Wellington, who is the British guy that defeats him. But some even said like just the depiction of him is inaccurate. Like they said, like one historian said that the portrayal of Napoleon as like a proto Hitler was vastly incorrect. Which I will admit I don't know a ton about Napoleon, so I'm not gonna like be like, oh, this is inaccurate. But I think it's fascinating how they portrayed him because, like, I don't know, it seemed like to me, I've always kind of envisioned like the whole Napoleon complex, right? That's a reason for striving to get power is to compensate for like being short or whatever, isn't that what that is? But it seemed like he wasn't so much like that, and the power that he got is what made him become so egotistical. Does that make sense?
Yeah, even then, Hunter, when I was watching it,
I'm listening.
When I was watching it, it was never clear when the shift occurred into like pure egoism. Like at the end of the movie, I don't know. I was like, oh shit, he lost one, and then the movie was over. Like it was never like, I'm the greatest ever. They're not gonna defeat me. It never got this like ego trip from him, other than like the "you're nothing without me" scene with Josephine.
Well, it's funny because he even says like, he's not really the one who even says like I'm the greatest in the world. There's people who tell him you're the greatest leader the world's ever known, like all these kind of things.
Right.
But it doesn't seem like it tries to. It doesn't seem like it tries to say that he was influenced. It's kind of like you were saying. It's kind of unclear on when he's like become this. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. Sorry, I'm trying to also, like talk and like read stuff.
The fucking tagline for the movie is he came from nothing, he conquered everything. But his parents were like not like straight royalty, but they were like, like aristocrats or whatever. They had money.
Yeah.
And he did not conquer everything.
No, he did not. Sorry,
he did not conquer Russia, and he did not conquer the UK.
I'm reading about like his family because it handled his kids super weird. Like, how many kids did he have? Should have done this earlier. Hold on a second. Let me see. It doesn't say. Because like he got a woman pregnant, like that one girl pregnant that his mom like set him up with, right?
Yeah, I don't think that was accurate either.
Okay.
What I understand, I'm not a historian, so take this with a grain of salt. Maybe like half the salt shaker, honestly. What I understand is that he had multiple bastard children, for lack of a better term. And so because he was like popping them out, or he wasn't popping out, but he was popping them in, and then they were baking in the easy bake oven and popping out left and right.
Okay.
It was clear that Josephine was infertile. So
Yeah. But it doesn't really talk. Sorry, I'm just trying to read all this. Never mind. I think the most interesting. I don't know. I think I keep coming back to this. Sorry, I'm gonna stop reading about this because I'm getting distracted. My biggest complaint, which is like what you said earlier, is I feel like things just kind of happened, and the only things that seemed to be emotionally charged was the relationship with Josephine, because like even when he became emperor, well, like he was given the proposition right by one of the 5 counselors or whatever. Which
wasn't that his brother?
That's the thing too, is that it's confusing because it seemed like they just called people brother, but then I thought there actually was his brother, and his brother
No, I
was
think
actually his brother was one of
yeah,
them. Yes,
his brother was one of them. Like I think his brother was the guy when they were actually doing the coup. He was outside and he like grabbed the sword and he was like, "I will kill Napoleon if he."
yes,
You know,
like
and then he looks at him like, whatever.
yeah. See, like
And
that,
they,
like that kind of humor I thought was funny.
yeah,
But I was gonna say, like, I don't think people, if you were unaware of the story of France and the fact that the revolution was to end the monarchy, right?
mm-hmm.
Right? Isn't that what it was? Then to have him become king and then emperor, like in retrospect, that's a massive thing to happen, right? If you fight to overthrow a monarchy and then however many years later you are the one that becomes the monarch.
Well,
But
so he let's clear some things up, and this is based on the movie, not on history, because I don't want to say anything that's inaccurate, but he didn't execute Marie Antoinette, right? So he wasn't necessarily a part of that.
no, but he was kind of seen as he was called the savior of the Republic, was he not?
Sure. Because the whatever, Toulon, Siege of Toulon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was a very pivotal battle. They needed to win that one. That was like win that and they get into the college football playoff. If they don't win, they're out, kind of thing.
Yes. Yes.
And so
good analogy.
They got into the college football playoff and ended up getting a national title. But do you remember the quote at the beginning? Like it was like the cold open. It was just like black screen, and there was like this quote talking about like, people in unrest. Unrest leads to revolution, and then revolution inevitably leads to unrest, or whatever it was.
Let me see if I can
know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I'm trying to see if I can find that revolution quote in Napoleon movie.
Because I think that was kind of alluding to what happens. It was like you get rid of a monarch and you put this vacuum, and then it sucks. So you instill another sort of like monarch figure.
Let me see if I can't find it. But yes, I see what you're saying. Well, I just think it's funny because like to me that should have felt, maybe that was the turn, right, when he becomes the Napoleon complex guy, but it didn't feel like it was in the movie.
Yeah,
I think it just could have been
presented weird.
Yeah, like he's like told that, and he like laughs in the guy's face, right? He's like king. But also, then he says king, but then he says the first emperor.
I don't think he wanted to be king. I thought he was going to take that crown and like break it and say, I'm not. France isn't going to have a king or something. But he did have the Julius Caesar crown.
I think that's just what. That's my biggest complaint about the movie, is that I feel like it felt like these things just sort of happened.
Yeah, it was just a fucking history textbook. Like I've been saying, it's just like event, no emotion, no like overarching arc, not even historically accurate. It's like one of those Dollar General history books that you're like, oh, you better watch out.
I don't know. I mean, I think it was like, I think that's my biggest disappointment. Is that like, because even when he comes back, like I think it's really his charisma. There's a few scenes that I think stand out, like when he's talking to the 5 counselors and they're like, you deserted your troops, and his charm and his smooth talking and his charisma in that scene where he turns the tables and leaves like with the upper hand. I thought that was a really cool moment. That was a really strong showing. when he comes
He
back
still
from
got exiled.
well, no. I'm saying like that's what led him to becoming. I thought that's what led him to becoming emperor.
When he deserted the troops?
Because he like his wife was cheating on him, so he went back. That was earlier on.
You're right.
He got sent into exile because he got so obsessed with conquering the Prussians, and like 600,000 people died. But like I thought that scene was really good, and then when he comes back from exile and like his army is still like he's talking to them and like wins them back, I thought those were really good scenes of kind of showing his charm, but it's just sort of comes out of nowhere. It doesn't feel like it's earned. But then there is stuff where it's petty, where it's like at the very, very end, he's trying to convince these two little girls, like, no, I'm the one who burnt down Moscow. Like he still needs them to know. Or like when he's telling Josephine, like, I want you to say I'm the most important thing in your life. And so you see those things kind of in him, but I don't know. I feel like the best narrative stuff and emotionally was all with Josephine, which I think is good, but I feel like that should have been the movie then.
Yeah.
Or do an action movie. Like one of the complaints amongst my in-laws was a lot of them were like, it was slower than I expected. And I thought to myself, well, I could have told you that because I don't think Joaquin Phoenix is going to sign up to do an action movie. I remember telling Hannah that. I was like, because she was like, I don't want to see fighting. I was like, yes, you're not, because it's Joaquin Phoenix. He's not just going to do an action movie. I mean, I wouldn't think so, at least. Maybe he would.
Honestly, it was more fighting than I thought was going to be
Really?
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about them blowing the tops off the pyramids?
Is that accurate? I thought that was visually like interesting. I thought it was it didn't really do much for me, I guess.
Okay.
I tell you what scene I did like, and I don't think some people might have been confused by it. I really liked the mummy scene where where they like opened up the sarcophagus or whatever, and he was like measuring himself against this like ancient Egyptian leader, like put his hat on him, and you could kind of see, at least in me, like at least for me, that was him kind of envisioning like he's that kind of leader, you know. And I really like.
It's funny that he measures himself up against like an old shriveled body, which is almost definitely smaller than that person was.
But what's funny is that then he still had to like get a box to stand on.
Yep.
I did like that. But I don't know. I mean, we can go on and on. I think it's visually a beautiful film. I think the set pieces are great. I think the acting is great. Like Joaquin's great, you know, like that's not up for dispute. I just think it's kind of put together. I don't want to say sloppily, but like it's just a bit chaotic, I think.
It's chaotic for sure. I agree. It's chaotic. You know, I was telling you that the audience in my theater was confused at times when they announced when Napoleon gets back from like I guess Moscow burned down. Was it Moscow?
Yeah.
And they tell him that Josephine has died. Someone clapped. And I don't know why they clapped. They gave like 2 claps and then stopped. Yeah. Isn't that odd? Like they didn't know. Like
I think what's weird is like. Let me try and explain this one more time and see if I can explain in a way that is satisfactory to me. You know, I said earlier about the first third is like a history channel. The second third is the romance. The third is the study of his Napoleon complex and egotism and downfall, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think what bothers me is that, to me, they don't compound on each other. They, like, are at the detriment of the other.
They detract from one another.
Yeah. So the first one is like, okay, we're doing a like historical war movie. it's not even that great because you can tell it doesn't. You can tell it kind of just wants to get through it, and then it gets to what it wants to talk about, the movie, like the relationship. But then like that part doesn't line up with what the third part says about that relationship because it cares more about Napoleon at that point. Like in the final third, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say, and throughout, I mean, we know history. We know that the Battle of Waterloo was like his undoing, and his hubris and all that. Blah blah blah. But throughout the film, he's set up as like a pure protagonist. It's not like this like anti-hero protagonist that it's like we're waiting for their downfall or whatever, right? It's just like he's like the protagonist. It's like, I don't know. I feel like, there are points where you're given reason to dislike him for this or that or the other, but I don't think. Does that make sense? Like it's not set up for us to like be rooting for his downfall at the end of the movie.
Yeah, like he's not really painted as this like gray figure. He's painted as sort of like this quirky guy. It's like
I just want to say the impression that I got, like the tone of the movie, he's painted as a fucking flawed hero. Like he's painted as like doing the right thing for France and like all this stuff, but he has issues. And like he's human or whatever, which is not. It's not necessarily, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, based on at least what history leads us to believe is not what he was. But I was gonna say what?
And then at the end, they just tag on like he led troops in battles that killed 3 million people.
So that okay, I want to talk about one thing and then I'll come back to that. But I was gonna say, finish my thought with the whole like each part kind of detracts. I like the relationship. Third, I guess. But then what was bothering me during the last third when he was kind of having his downfall is that after their divorce, which was ugly because like he treats her like trash, they're just writing like they're so in love, and like even she's like sick. She's like, Napoleon's coming, and it's like you barely acted like you liked him when you first started dating.
Yeah,
and that's where it would kind of wouldn't lead. And it's like, did you fall in love with him? Because when he snapped at you at the dinner, you acted like you were miserable. And that's where I was confused, is it was just like, how did she actually feel about him? Because it doesn't really make it clear. But the last third wants you to believe that she was madly in love with him. And I'm not saying she didn't love him. I can hear her. I'm not saying that she didn't love him, but it paints it as like this, their longing. And it's like, well, he's married to somebody else and has mistresses and stuff. And it's like, it was just strange. But
I agree.
You're right. There's actually like a fourth little moment at the very end where it like shows how many people he was basically responsible for the deaths of. I'm not going to say killing because it's war. He didn't do it himself, but how many people died? Like 3 million people died in his battles. And then I was like, so Hana, is this a movie that's a commentary on like the costs of war and his recklessness as a leader, or are you because that's not what the tone of it was. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
That did strike me weird.
It all didn't fit. It felt like it was like a 4-piece puzzle and none of the pieces fit together.
Yeah. That was an odd way to end it to me. Because that's something that you would see at the end of a movie about like a serial killer. Where it's like, here's the damage that he did. And it was like, well, you showed us a picture like he was, like you said, like some flawed hero who did great things, but like had a big ego. And it's like, maybe he did, but just pick a lane.
I feel like it also would have worked better if there was this, so like Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer had like scenes and entire like trajectories that were like, yeah, America, we built the nuke. But then it's like heavily contrasted with like these panic attacks that he's having. And like when he's like giving the speech, and like you hear the scream, and you see the girl's like face melting. You know what I mean? Like if this movie had some of that to say, like, yes, he conquered and he did these great things for France, but at what cost? Like if it felt like it was like giving that commentary or something, I feel like it would have been stronger, but it didn't.
Yeah. Or like what happened to the country? Like was France in good shape when he was ruling, or was it falling apart?
Well, so France fell apart, and it's no longer
No longer what? France still exists. Are you talking about today or talking about back then?
No. France today is just a giant Disneyland.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's just a giant theme park.
Never been. But what else? I think like we have little snippets of his military genius, and I'm like, that's also a route you could have taken. Like if you would have stuck with the History Channel version, we could have just been a study of him as a general. And it's just like, I don't know. It was just weird. It felt like it dabbled on a lot of stuff, but didn't know what it wanted to talk about. That's kind of I can wrap up with that. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else? Because we're already pushing an hour. I didn't know if you want to keep going. What else you want to talk about?
I mean, I'm good. It was confusing. I will say I enjoyed it, but if we're weighing, actually, I need to ask you if we're weighing if this is a good film, a bad film. Let me make this more concise. Hunter, but is Napoleon good?
It is good. It is not great. I think it sits at like 61%, and that's kind of where I would put it. Like, if it's fresh, it's barely fresh.
Yeah.
Real quick, can you please, sir? I'm gonna send you a rebutted question, if I may, sir.
Okay.
I would like to know your ranking of Joaquin Phoenix month. We might be the same. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, so Napoleon's coming in last place. Okay. Next is going to be, give me a second. Next, I think, is going to be The Master, coming in third place. Then, Come On. And then taking the top spot is Her.
We have the same ranking. I thought I didn't know if we would put Come On and The Master in the same place, but I think we have the same ranking. And actually, I mean, Her is one of my favorite.
I really liked Come On.
I loved Come On. I think for me, there's actually a pretty substantial gap between Come On and The Master.
Same.
And a pretty substantial gap between The Master and Napoleon.
Yeah.
And Napoleon, look, the
Master gave us pig fuck, so the Master's goated.
The Master was a lot to take in, but it felt so much more focused.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, cool. There you go. That is Napoleon, and that is our rankings for Joaquin Phoenix month. Let's do a couple. We've kind of gone long, so let's do a couple of Every Movie Sucks reviews. How about that?
Oh, shit. I need to pull them up.
Let's see here. This one says, this is Emil1239 half star. They massacred my boy.
Give me 1 second here.
Zach, do I have your permission to do another one?
This is not a 1-star review, but it's really funny. Can't wait for Sofia Coppola's Josaphine.
Let's see here. What? Do you have one more?
Yeah. I don't know why this got me, but someone just said shit sucked in all caps.
Let me see here. I'm trying to find something that are funny. Oh, this says Katie loves films. Half star. The history student in me is screaming. It's kind of funny. All right, I'm gonna do one more, and then you can, and then we'll be done. Zach, you got one more for us?
Yeah. Bro is French, not vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate.
Let's see here. Here's one more. This is kind of long. Wait. Okay, I'm not gonna read that one. Here we go. This is by DC actually, so half star. One of the worst films I've seen this year. I genuinely thought Hollywood stopped making this kind of movie in the 90s. I'm a big fan of character assassinations, especially when the targets are French icons, but this movie was just awful. The costumes were nice, but that's about it. The acting, dialogue, and especially the weird anachronistic jack-off scenes were cinematic. Ipecac? Don't know what that word is. Anyway, there you
Spell
go.
it?
IPACAC.
IPACACE.
No, IPECAC.
Oh, that's the stuff. That's the stuff. It's like a syrup you take to make yourself throw up.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've literally never heard of that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's like Ipecac or something. I don't know how to pronounce it, but Google it.
Yeah, I can see that. Wild. Okay, there you have it. Every movie sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Every movie sucks. Every movie sucks.
Here's an honorable mention.
Oh, please.
Probably would have rated this higher if the movie theater I went to sold slushies.
Fair enough. Zach, can you give me a quick little ditty about the Shindigs?
Little diddy diddy, how nervous or shitty. It's time to talk about the news.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Any more? Okay, here we go. News. Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio are both teaming up and returning for a Karate Kid film.
Okay.
I didn't realize that Jackie Chan was in a Karate Kid film, but apparently he was a long time ago, and they're both coming back. Melissa Barrera was removed from Scream 6. I think the consensus is that she was fired because she talked about the Palestinian-Israel war, but she was fired or removed, and then immediately after, Jenny Ortega of Wednesday fame dropped out of Scream 6.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Pattinson is said to be playing a Patrick Bateman-type character in a new Adam McKay film. Also saw something, I forgot what it's called, but what's her name? Keith Urban's wife. Nicole Kidman is set to star in a new A24 film. I forgot the name of it. Sorry, that's based off memory. I didn't write it down. Chris Columbus has claimed to have 972 boxes of unused and unseen footage of Robin Williams from the filming of Mrs. Doubtfire, and he wants it to be used in a documentary, and I would watch that. Ms. Marvel star Imani Vellani has confirmed that a Young Avengers project is in the works at Marvel. Let's see here. Here's one more. Superman Legacy has added Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen and Sarah Sampaio as Eve Teskmacher. There's a lot of people in that movie. And then Aquaman 2 has been forecast to open up at $32 to $42 million, which is not good.
It's pretty low, right?
Really bad. So that's pretty much kind of being written off as a loss already, which is fine. And the one that I just saw today, which I can't believe is happening, Bob Iger has essentially confirmed that Frozen 3 and 4 are being developed at Disney, which essentially to me is saying that Disney only wants franchises that are proven to make money.
Yeah. I saw a story that Frozen 4 was in development, and people were like, where the hell's Frozen 3? Like, where's the third one?
And Wish, because I think like their latest film, Wish, like bombed really bad currently. Mm-hmm. So it looks like Disney, I don't know. They're just trying, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really care that much, honestly. I like Frozen. Things good, but, you know. There you go. News of the week.
News.
Zach, do you have any shindigs for us this week? Anything?
I don't know of a single Braves update in the past week. The Hawks have been up and down. Let's see if they won.
They lost. They're 8-8.
We're gonna do a live score update. Hunter stole my thunder. They lost.
Falcons won.
Falcons did win, and they are first in the NFC South, which is shocking. At a 5-6 record, that they could get into the playoffs with a losing record.
Didn't the Giants win the World Series, the Super Bowl once with a losing record? Didn't that happen once? They were 7-9 or something.
Maybe
has that happened?
Yeah. Well, I know that the Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl twice, right?
Mm-hmm. One time was to spoil the perfect season. I know that.
Mm-hmm. Which the perfect season was one of the scandal seasons, wasn't it? Were they
was that
stealing tape?
The Deflategate or whatever, or was that a different thing?
I don't know. Deflategate might have been a different year.
I don't know. Well, Zach, that was very brave of you.
It's the bravest thing I've done all week. Honestly, probably, because I've been laying down a lot. I haven't done much.
Is it time for whiskey shots?
It is time for whiskey shots.
Whiskey shots. Whiskey shots. We love. Actually, this time of year is, well, I have two whiskey things to talk about, actually. Hollis saw a picture of whiskey on my phone, and he said, hug, sad. It was very nice, because I didn't know if he would remember whiskey. And two, Zach, you'll know what I'm about to say. This time of year is very tough without whiskey, because she loved Christmas trees. And I very much miss seeing her climb and then sleep inside of a Christmas tree. It's very, very
really
fun.
Get in there.
She was stuck. You weren't getting her out. She would hole up there for a day.
If you didn't know where she was, look in the tree.
Yeah, and it was tough to find her sometimes, honestly. She blended in.
Yeah.
So, anyway, this is to whiskey.
To whiskey.
Oh, that was funny. All right, Zach, where can they find us? You tell us.
You know.
They can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at But Is It Good Podcast. You can follow us on X or whatever it's called now at BIIG Podcast. You can say hello to us at BIIGpodcast@gmail.com. But Is It Good Podcast @gmail.com or But Is It Good @gmail.com, any of them. We'll be announcing December's schedule later this month. I mean, this week. I think, are we taking 2 weeks off? I don't know if we are. Maybe we can plan ahead and we'll be gone, but we can plan ahead and have some episodes scheduled maybe, because there's a lot of good movies coming out this month.
Yeah, if we take time off, it would probably be...
Maybe to start the year. We can do that. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's what we've done in the past. It was the first 2 weeks of January. So that'll give us time to watch all the great movies in December and then schedule a few episodes. Yeah.
Sick. Okay, cool. Well, then we'll see you guys next week.
When we do a Danny DeVito film.
Should we continue our trend of talking for a second and then I can just cut off mid-sentence like we've done with the past few episodes?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
So how was your how was your life? But Is It Good Podcast? Yeah.
Also, I don't know if I told you, but I got an espresso machine.
Oh, really? Wow. I hope you really enjoy that Nespresso machine that you're just telling me about now for the first time. Yep, you heard it here first, folks. Hunter got an espresso machine.